And then Ablat Gemara, good morning, with Daf Yud Beis on the base on the bottom of the page. Today's Daf Yud Gimel, the penultimate Daf, not only in Masechta Haidiyas, but in Tayin Zikin. Says the Gemara on Zikin at least. As we said, the Baal Tudim said the Samta Batena, Tena is Gematria 60, and he learns what he learns over there, Echem Meshishim, but it says in all the Sfarim that there's 60 Masechtas and Shas, and that's why a Gon is called a Gon, because Gon is Gematria 60. And even though there are 63 Mesechtas, but if you put all the bubbles together, 61, and according to others, the Makkas and Sanhedrin are one, that makes it 60. So the Samta Batena, the 60 Mesechtas should be in your basket. You should have it in Munach Beki, so you should have it clear. So, right to that, you base the bottom of the page, anything which is more common always comes first. Todir, Shayna Todir, the same famous saying is Todir Kaidim, and interesting that you have it here, Masechta Chediyos. But we're talking about hierarchy and so on and so forth. We had a Kohen God, we had different things, and we're talking about Dini Kedima, order. How do you know this concept Todir, Shay Todir? We'll see in a minute. Anything which is holier than the next thing comes before the next thing. We'll see how we know that. Par HaMashiach or Par Eda. So here you have two who committed an Aveda at the same time. The Mashiach, the Kohen Gadol, he passed him wrong and he made a mistake. And the Par Eda, the entire community followed the Bez and made a mistake. Both have to bring a carbon. Now, which carbon comes first? You would think the Eda comes first. Klal Yisrael. Nevertheless, Par HaMashiach by Eda, they're both ready to go. Par HaMashiach, Kohen Par Eda, B'chol Masav. The Kohen Gadol and Par HaMashiach comes first. We'll soon see why. First of all, how do you know that Tadish and Tadish Kohen? It says that in addition to the Mavad Oilas HaBoiker, you'll do the extra kabbanis in addition to the ordinary oilas habayker, and then the pasuk adds words which seem to be redundant. Asher oilas hatamid. That belongs to oilas hatamid. L'chayda, what do you have to say that for? Merdik siva oilas habayker oilas hatamid lamrit to add it for. Al-Gam Rachmana calls it tidik kadmon. That not only why oilas habayker comes first, because it's tajid, and tajid is always first. Cholam akudish mechavede hu kaidem mechavede, whichever mekudish comes first. How do you know that? The Tanur Bishmol, Yeshua Shmuel learned. It says the pasuk v'kidashta, when it comes to a kohen, you should be he always comes first. And that he should be the first one to go and read the Torah. And he should lead the benching. He always take first. So we see that Kaddish comes first. In the Gemara, we're going to have the famous question: what about Tadir and Mekudish? Okay, you have two rules here. Right, it's axiomatic that Tadir comes first and that Mekudish comes first. Tadir Mekudish, which is more important? The Tamid versus the Musaf. You only have enough money for one carbon. What should you buy? The more carbon Musaf or the carbon Tamid? And it has enough minutes halach. Okay. We'll wait till we get to this Wochen. Says the Gemara weiter that you give them an Aleph. Par Kohen Meshuach, a Par Eda, which comes first, the Kohen Meshuach. Why? I mean, how you know that? Rambam learns in the pasuk that what should you do to the Par Eda? V'sorav oisa, you should burn it just like outside the Machal Kasha Sorav as a Par, like you burnt the first part, just like you did the first part, from the Kohen Gadol. Tam what do you mean like the first part? You already said you should do everything to this part like you did in the first part. So what do you say? No, first it talks about in the Torah about a part of the Kohen Mashiach, and then it talks about the part of the Eder. It says do everything to the part of Eder like you did to the part of Kohen Mashiach, and then it says, and then it comes to the burning. It says again, burn the part of the Eder like the part of Mashiach. Obviously, you told me to do everything like I do the same thing. Why have to repeat again? So it comes first. So what happened? The Par Kohen Mashiach comes first, before the Eder.
So even if you shechted the other one a few minutes later, but you have to burn the
No. What you start is something. You're talking about you have two Avedas in front of you. The Kohen Gadol made his Aveda, the Kohen, and you have to bring, you're going to do one carbon at a time. Which one should you do first? So the Gemara said, I'm going to give a reason as well. So I'm going to Par Kohen Mashiach, Par Eder, Par Kohen Mashiach. Why does he come first? The Par Eder, B'chol Masav, and all of these. Hoyilu Mashiach Mechaper ve'Eder Mizchaperes. They both need a kapara. So Dina makes sense. She yaktim ha-mechaper le-mizchaper. He should atone for himself. In fact, this is why in an airplane they always tell you first put the mask on your face and then you put the mask on all those around you. We're talking about hierarchy. So the part of a tzibur comes before the part, even if the tzibur made a mistake of avodah zarah. So remember, there's different kabbanas. If the entire tzibur follow the bezin for shar mitzvahs, or and that's in Parshas Vayikra, or the avodah zarah, which is in Parshas Shlach. So that comes first. Now you would think avodah zarah needs a kapara quicker. My timer, because high chatas v'high oila. By carbon by avodah zarah you bring two carbonas, chatas and oila, and by oshar kol mitzvahs you only bring one carbon, a chatas for the entire Eidah. By the time you learn the hikar chatas v'sheina matam aleim. What does it mean by saying that? It means. That the chatas comes first. You have a chatas and oila. We have a general rule: whenever you have two kabbanas, the chatas and oila, the chatas comes first. So why over here by avodah zarah it says over here? Why by here by it says by the carbon by shar mitzvahs it says do the chatas first? We know the chatas always come first. Then the second one should be an oila. Teach you that every time you have a chatas and oila, a chatas always comes first. The kaimel, and furthermore, this rule that a chatas comes first is a chatas oif kedemis lo'oif behemoth. Even though behemoth is so much more chashuv than an oif, nevertheless, if the oif is a chatas and the behemoth is oil, you do chatas first. Par avodas kavim koidem l'seir avodas kechavim. Now within avodas kechavim you have two kabbanas. You have the par. The par over there is the oil, and the seir is the chatas. Over there, par avodas kechavim koidem l'seir kechavim. Amai high chatas v'high oila. This is the chatas and this is an oila. The chatas should come first. So you want Amar Mashay the Rava Bar Mori chatas avodas chavim, because by avodas chavim it says over there the word chatas chased aleph, missing an aleph. The chatas, but this will say we're not going to do the way you always do it. Something's missing. Normally a chatas comes before an oila, but over here the oila comes first. Rava says kimishpat ksiv bei. It says in the pasuk that you should go ahead and bring the carbon the oila, and then it says you bring the chatas, and it says the word kamishpat. Kamish means follow this pasuk exactly the way it's written. And in this case, the oila comes first. Okay, next you have the seir of avodah zarah, and you have the seir of a nasi. They both did it at the same time. Which comes first? The seir of avodah zarah comes first. My time of why? High tzibur v'hayachid. This is the community, and this is the yachid. Even though by Kohen Gadol we did all the way around, he was a yachid, but we explained he needs a kapara before he can mechap and everybody else. What about seir nasi? And you have a nasi and an individual. Obviously, the nasi comes first as the yachid. My time, a high melech, but high edit, a king comes first. Seir is yachid, kedemes like the yachid, and then you have two yachidim. One, and you have a choice. You have a choice to bring either a goat or to bring a lamb. And one yid bringing a goat, and one yid bringing a lamb. Who comes first? Then the goat comes first. But the Tanya said, we'll see in a minute why. But Tanya the Braisa that no, the sheep comes, the lamb comes first. Which comes first? Whichever is more chashuv comes first. But which one is more chashuv? The female goes more chashuv. If a person does avodah zarah, he has to bring only. He's limited. He can't bring a sheep. He doesn't have a choice. By avodah zarah, you must bring a goat. So we see that there's a cheshivah say that when it comes to avodah zarah, the only animal that can mechaper you is a goat. So therefore, the goat should come first. But Marsava, no, keeps sadif. You know why? Taka in other places you bring a goat, not a sheep. But over here, a sheep, you're giving more of the animal to the Eibishter than by a goat. Shekeni sapsav aliyah, it has the hindquarters, the tail end, which a goat doesn't have. Oimer koidem lekeves beimoy. You bring the carbon oimer, michas oimer, it brings also sheep. Which you do first? The animal more chashuv. You bring the oimer first. Shtei alechem koidem lechvasim habayimoyim. And the shtei alechem hashvuos, the 2 loaves of bread. You also have all the sheep, the lambs. You first bring the bread. And why is that? The animal is more chashuv. Zeh this is the rule. Haba begin liyoim. The main carbon, which is for the day, koidim ledavar haba begin lechem, comes before. It's ancillary. The animals is ancillary to the bread, is ancillary to the barley offering, to the mincha, and therefore they come second. Now we're talking about first and second. Says the Mishnah Vayter. Totally out of place, but it's the Mishnah here. So Gemara says, A man comes before a woman to give, if you have to give support, you can only support one. Why? Because a man has more, the Rambam writes in Mishnah, because a man has more mitzvahs than a woman. So therefore, you have to help him out. Why you have to help out Eid B'chal? Because they're doing mitzvahs. A man has more mitzvahs. And so the same thing applies to Hashem's Aveda. But Isha Kademis Ish. Now remember, the busha by a woman is far greater than by a man. As you look more Sanhedrin there. So Isha Kademis Ish Lichsus. If you have to clothe someone, the shame of not being clothed properly for a woman is far greater than for a man. If she was taken captive, a woman is obviously, because it could be things can happen untoward to the woman. If the man is being threatened with mishkav zachar and the woman being threatened with her thing, then an ish kain lisha, because mishkav zachar is far more embarrassing than what happens to the woman. Tell them I learned. Remember, you had the end of the Elam Mitzias, this whole thing there. Hayahu, the Aviv, the Rabbi, you, your father, and your Rebbe were all kidnapped. And you only have enough money to ransom one of them. Who should come first? Who kaidin l'Rabba? He comes first, but his Rebbe comes second, and the Rabba kaidin l'Aviv. But there we had more in Elam Mitzias. But if your father is also your teacher, then your father comes first. Beautiful taste of the whole, and whatever. Your mother comes first again, because if you're staying captive, other things can happen there. Chacham kaidim. Now this is very interesting what the Gemara says here. A chacham kaidim lemelech Yisrael. A chacham takes precedence. So you only have enough money to pay for one's ransom. Other chacham or a melech Yisrael. Who should you ransom? You would think the melech Yisrael. No, the chacham. You know why? Chacham shemes ein lanu kiyosef. But to become a chacham, it's not a biological fact. You know, a chacham, you have to work hard to become a chacham. If he's gone, who's going to take your place? Aber melech Yisrael shemes kol Yisrael ruim u'malchus. Every yid is suitable to be a king. This is like the opinion of Rav Shimon Gamliel Masechta Shabbos. You know that everyone's a bnei melech, and therefore the women have a right to have these more expensive oils on Shabbos. They can walk around with it.
Israel Malchus, don't you have to be from Malchus?
Only if you can. But if you can't, if you don't have, we had Malach Yisrael, they were kings.
For example.
Yeah, whatever.
The whole Taina against them was always that they're not from Beis David.
Yeah, on the other hand, in Shabbat, not everybody shacks to Snasus. You have to have a certain of being aloof.
Yeah, I mean,
arrogant, you have to not everybody shacks.
No, good point. So what's chatting about
That's
then?
fine.
Interesting. But interesting that, you know, the Lahavdil, when these scholars are trying to figure out what's the success of the Eden, and they don't attribute it to mitzvahs and the Zevaito and Nisim, Mais and Nisim, they say because scholarship was always pushed by Eden. You have to be an academic.
There was an
survive.
academic culture.
And to say that a Chach was more important than Melech is counterintuitive. I mean, who would have thought that a Talmud Chacham takes precedence over a Melech? Your king is in trouble. I mean, you would think the first thing you do is save your king. Melech Kohen Gadol, a king comes before Kohen Gadol.
It's
exactly what Abicha did, but the Chacham weren't very happy with him. You see that?
He saw that as the future.
But they were talking about the Beis Hamikdash. You should have asked them, you know, spare the Beis Hamikdash.
This was he saw how to save the future.
Yeah, that's one of the eyes they bring. Melech before Kohen Gadol, it says, Melech said to them, take my avdei to anoint my son Shlomo Melech, and he says, take the servants of your master. Who's his master? David Melech himself, talking about himself in third person. And he's saying that he comes before the people that he sent, and he sent the Novi, the Kohen Gadol. Kohen Gadol came in Novi. It says, "Mashach Oisasham Tzaddik HaKohen." So what does he list there? He says Tzaddik HaKohen is the Kohen Gadol, and then the Nasan HaNavi. So see, Kohen Gadol takes precedence over a Navi. Hegdim Tzaddik LeNasan. Va'oimen, he says another ayah. Shmana Yeshua Kohen Gadol. Listen, Yeshua Kohen Gadol. You and your friends. Who are his friends? Nevi'im. Why we need another ayah? I'm not sure. Yochel had yotis. I would have thought, how you know your friends are Nevi'im? Maybe they're ordinary people. But they're miraculous people. They ain't special people. They're Nevi'im. Remember, it says the Nasan Lecho Isa Meifus. How do you do? What's the criteria to know who's a Navi? They can do a Meifus. Now the Rosh and others, I remember another Masech as well. Find the next Gemara a little bit hard in Metzias. So he says that you have two people. You have, let's say, to save. Who should you save first? The Kohen Gadol who was Meshur Muhammad, or the Kohen Gadol Merubah Gadim? How do you have two Kohen Gadolim at the same time of Meshur Muhammad? They don't understand. So if you look at the Rosh, the whole Echet Timtza, that the Kohen Gadol here, and then he was deposed, and then he died. They made another Kohen. I don't know. It's just very difficult. The Metzias of these cases is more academic. Or Meruba Gadim Kaidel Mashiach. A Meruba Gadim comes before Kaim Mashiach and Muhammad. Shaif, Kaim Mashiach Sha'avar. Before a Mashiach Sha'avar. How do you have a Mashiach Sha'avar and a Meruba Gadim at the same time? The Meruba Gadol is the main Kohen Gadol. Yeah, and what's going on here? And then you have
they have the spare Kohen Gadol for Yom Kippur.
yeah.
So if they anointed him right at the end of when they ran out of the Shemin HaMishcha, then he went into reserve. He doesn't function as a Kohen Gadol.
Okay.
And then they appoint a new Kohen Gadol, but they have no Shemin HaMishcha. They have a Meruba Gadol. That's the only way I see it.
Okay, it could be. I mean, you have to just look at Rosh. I can't remember exactly all the detail how he works it out. So now you have like this. You have a Mashiach Sha'avar. So you have the main Kohen Gadol, but right now he's not the Kohen functioning. You have this the one who stepped in. But remember, we learned before there's two categories of Avar. One is a temporary, one is a permanent. The temporary, you know right away. In a week from now, he's tummy, but in a week from now, he'll be all right. So Machmas Keryoy and Mashiach Sha'avar. Now, how do you have two of these two Kohen Gedolim at the same time? You have two Kohen Gedolim. One was taken off because of what do you call it? Of a mum, and the other one was then taken off permanently. But who's the main Kohen Gadol here? The one Machas Mumish. The other one is my nafkamin of the other one is why he's there. The first one is the main Kohen Gadol. He will for a week he was tummy. Then you put someone else in, and now he got a mum. The second person you put in, who cares why he's no longer Kohen Gadol, whether it's a mum or not? He's not the main Kohen Gadol. It's the first one, the main Kohen Gadol. So what happened here?
But is this all nafkamin lepoil, or is this just to teach you the Seder Hadvarim?
Yeah, but no, the Seder Hadvarim. They were taken captive. Who should you redeem first?
Yeah, but your question is a valid question.
Yes, I'm saying they try to work out all these things
teach you
academically. Yeah, our Machas Mumay, a Kohen Gadol who was a Kohen Gadol, but our Kohen Mashiach Muhammad. But if he was over Machmas, even though it was Machmas Mumay, permanently he's still a higher level, because we had Mashiach Muhammad before is not even a Kohen Gadol. We had a Machlekes if he's a Kohen Gadol at all, or at least he's a Kohen Gadol minimum. Only those 5 did him about marrying a psula and not marrying an almana, and that's it. He's not really a Kohen Gadol. The guy who makes the declarations before the soldiers. Mashiach Muhammad Kohen Mazgan. This Gan was the person who did not yet become the Kohen Gadol, but he's ready. You always have a Kohen in waiting, a Kohen Gadol in waiting. Especially Yom Kippur, you have a Kohen Gadol in waiting to make sure if something goes wrong with the Kohen Gadol, he's ready to step in. But he didn't step in yet. So at the moment, he's a Kohen head yet. But he's been designated. So he's a Gan. He's Kohen Amarkel. What's Amarkel? The word Amarkel is Amar Kula. He's the guy, he's the boss, the administrator. Whatever he says goes. He runs all the affairs. Amarkel Kohen Gizber. And the Amarkel is higher than the Gabbai. The Amarkel instructs the Gabbai what to do. And Gizber Kohen L'Reish Mishpar. So he had 24 Mishmaros. Each Mishmar had 6 Batei. So therefore, you had the head of the Mishmar was higher up, and then Rosh Mishmar Kohen Rosh Beis Av, and then you had the lower. So you had a real hierarchy here. It's like a case system. Rosh Beis Av Kohen Hedyot. Then the last is the Kohen Hedyot. Iboyelahu, we asked a question when it comes to Tumah. Okay, you just told us that the Mashiach will come. What happens? It comes before the Gan. What happens if Tumah? Comes to Tumah, there's a Meis Mitzvah. We had in Gemara Nazir and other places we have a Kohen Gadol and a Nazir who should be Metame for a Meis Mitzvah. Here you have now a Zgan. So L'Poil, he's nothing. He's just a Kohen Hedyot, but in waiting. And you have Moshe Muhammad. There's a war. He has to be ready. Who should be Metame himself? Because when you're Tame, you're out of circulation for 7 days. Ezem Kohen. Who's first? Al Mazut Rev Nachman Toshma Tanya Zgan Moshe Muhammad Shahayi Mahalchim. They're traveling or Paga Behem Meis Mitzvah. Mutiv Shiyitam and Moshe Muhammad Vayitam Zgan. Let the Moshe Muhammad become Tamei and not the Zgan, because we need to make sure that the Kohen Gadol is always a Kohen Gadol in the base of Mikdash. Shemiyera by Psul the Kohen Gadol Nichel Zgan steps in Meshamash Tachtav. But you want about Daniel Moshe Muhammad Kohen Zgan. We learned another B'nai Moshe Muhammad comes for the Zgan. Ravina Kitani Hilach Yosef. You have to support only one of them. You support the Mishromi. We need a war. We need someone to give us to lift our spirits. But when it comes to Tumah, there we have to have this Gan, because you can't just put someone there as a Kohen Gadol. You have to have someone trained, and we have everything else. Talk about hierarchy. We continue. Kohen is Kohen Levi. If you remember, you had all Gemara Sugin Gittin when it comes to the Aliyahs over there, who gets first, and very interesting over there. Kohen comes before Levi. A Levi before Yisrael. And big machlekes in the poskim, if let's say there's no kohen, do you put a Levi then, or you can go straight to Yisrael? And then if you're on the world and go in the shuls, every shul has his own minhag. Some people put a Levi first, some don't. No, but the Levi is only tied into the kohen. No kohen, there's the Levi's lose the chivas as well, or no? And the question really is, what's a kohen? as this one right in the Chakidus. Is a coin a Levi but grander, or is a coin a whole separate Am? If a coin is if a Levi is a separate Am, and we say that coin the Levi and Yisrael, no coin, the Levi steps in. But if you learn that a Levi really and a coin are the same thing, just a coin is grander. Once there's no coin, that whole thing moves away, and then you go straight to Yisrael. Yeah, that's exactly what I said. It's part of Chabila. Which Chabila? Okay. Kohen Yisrael, Yisrael, the Mamzer, Yisrael goes for Mamzer for the sin. The sin was a trick to Yeshua, may believe that you were from Zion. I mean, but nothing the gay, and the sin comes before gay. Come on, get tzaddik. The gay lev meshucher, the gay comes before ev meshucher, even ev meshucher as a mila, because while he's an eved, before he's meshucher, he kept all the mitzvahs like a woman. So he kept all the, and now, but on the other hand, he was forced to be a gay. And so on. We'll see. When did we say when is a hierarchy when they were equal? Again, you see how important scholarship is. Here you have the priestly family, and yet a mamzer comes first. So the Gemara, Koyin Levi. A Koyin comes before Levi. It says Bnei Amram. I know Koyin comes first. It says Bnei Amram was Aaron and Moshe. Vayavdil Aaron lahagdisha Koyin Gdoshim. Aaron was separated, so we see that a Koyin is the highest level. Levi Koyin is Rosh. It says Beisa he Hashem Shevet Levi. The Abish took and sorted out Shevet Levi, set up Shevet Levi to carry the Aaron and so on. Yisrael Koyin leMamzer. Shazem Miyuchas was the Ein Miyuchas. Why doesn't the Gemara just say that he came from an Aveda and he didn't come from an Aveda? But maybe that's more saying in a nice way. That he's miyuchas, not miyuchas. Mamzer koyin the sins zeba metipa ksheda. The fact that then the mamzer come from a yid. And zeba metipa psula. In the sin they were going.
Interesting, you call the mamzer tipa ksheda.
His father was a it means a Yisrael. I know, but true. But we mean that he's Yisrael. Nesin koydem leger ze godel imona b'kedusha. The Nesin lived a life as a yid, and bezel lo godel imona b'kedusha. The ger Mashenk was a guy until he became a ger. Ger. Interesting. If there's a big machlekes in the Gemara, and with Achron explain the ger is a guy who cut Chanel is that a metzizik thing or halachic thing. If it's a metzizik thing, then when wasn't he b'kedusha? From the moment he was born, he was Kaddish. In fact, everyone asks, we say that a Gershon is a guy who cut your nose dummy, and they ask, where do you know that from?
It's not.
Oh, so there's a Sam Sefer that says you learn it, things about Turim. In last week's parasha, it says, Ger Yosem Valmana. Usually it says Ger V Yosem Valmana. It says Ger Yosem Valmana. The Ger himself is a Yosem, because he's cut your nose dummy, he has no parents. He's like, he just started. That's what he says. Anyway. Ger koydem le'eved meshucher, a ger come for an eved meshucher. Why did he get because eved meshucher was sheva kanani. Zeh hoye b'chalot, zeh hoye b'chalot. This was a curse that wasn't cursed. Aim is not going to shavin. When is all the apply? When all the same. Not how you know that. Oh, but a very important passage. That's called Yikari Pnimim. Not learning Torah is more precious than Pninim, than all the jewelry. What jewel? What's Pninim? Pninim also means the inside. What happens in the inside? That's the most important thing. Kohen Gadol Hanyim Kippur and Kodesh HaKadoshim. And Yikari Pninim. A learning Torah is more important than Pninim. Kohen Gadol Pninim. Tani Lam Shema Yichayim. Bedinu Sheyakdim Eved Meshuch Leger. True, the matter is that Eved Meshuch should become before a ger because he lived like a yid his whole life, at least like a woman. He did mitzvah, he didn't. But he was bechal order. Interesting, but ask a number of interesting questions. Talking about a ger, this is interesting. Shaul Tamidim Rabbi Lazar Rabbi Tzadik. The Tamidim asked Rabbi Lazar Rabbi Tzadik. B'pnei hakol rotzin lisa giyedus. Why does everybody rotzin? They run to marry giyedus. Others say rotzin. They want to marry dafka giyedus. They want to dafka marry giyedus rather than just a bas Yisrael. They'd rather marry a giyedus. Why? The ein hakol rotzin lisa. That's how some of the Shem. One of the Shem learned that they dafka not as opposed to the way the Gemara, the reading the Gemara is like opposed to them. They'd rather marry giyedus. I can't remember who says this. One of them understood the Gemara Pashat.
You quote your Mashot.
Well, Mashot said that. Okay, maybe that's what I thought. That you'd rather marry Giyadis compared to your Bas Yisrael. Amazing thing. Because if they're not b'chalor and they elected to become a yid in a way, as you know, if you remember in the case of the in kedushin in kedushin where we said that kosher kesapachas, so Taisus gave him causes a problem like leprosy. So Taisus brings the 5 different pshatim, and the last one is about Avram Ager. And Avram Ager says the reason why sapachas is because the Gedim are much more passionate about Yiddishkeit than a person who was just born into it, and therefore the Satan uses that sometimes against the Yidden. They say, look, he was not even born a Yid, but look at how frum he is and everything else, and you, why aren't you the same? While they were in Eved, they were behefkedis. They weren't careful. Mashenkein, the ger. Shalu Tamid Rabbi they ask a number of questions, totally unrelated. A dog always knows its master. And even when it goes ahead, it turns around, looks at his master. And a cat has no idea his master. They can disappear. You always see these signs. I'm looking for this cat and that cat. They don't recognize the master. Why? He said to them, very simple. If you ate from a piece of food that a mouse ate, you forget. If you ate the mouse itself, and what does a cat eat? Cat eats mice. So it's not just a human condition. Anyone who eats a mouse is a lachas kama kama. So it's brought down that you're not allowed to eat a mouse. There's machlekes in actually not chroinim. But we say it's kosher l'shicha. We'll soon learn the whole sugya about kosher l'shicha. Things you should eat because you might forget. By a mouse. Is it that, let's say, a mouse nibbled a piece of bread? Does the pshat the entire bread now is osir? Or is only the piece and you cut off a piece? You just cut it off. And they say here, that means only the part that he ate. So someone to bring a knife me that you can cut a piece. In fact, Rabbi Yosef, and so you just cut off that piece and that's good enough. But he brings there all the different poskim that argue the kafachaimas, holichas, whether you can eat, because it's a ruchazik thing. Is it a gashmazik thing like a poison, or is it a ruchazik thing that a mouse, as Gemara will say in a minute, has terrible midas, and when you eat, you acquire the midas, so it spreads throughout the entire piece. As Gemara explains, why is it that everybody hates mice? In fact, my Bubba would never say the word mouse. Miaskite. Oh yeah, I just saw miaskite in the bungalow, and we had to go chase the mouse out of the house. She wouldn't even say the word. They have bad habits. What kind of bad habits do they have? I feel a gleaming guy. So they eat a shirt. What geschmack do they have in eating a shirt? Nothing. They just like to be a masik.
A goat will do that too.
But maybe he enjoys it. I don't know. But a mouse is just a mazik. The Papa says, I feel a shufsha mother the guy. So he eats the handle of a shop, whatever it is. He eats it. It's wood. He has no geschmack in it. Talking about forgetting. Tell him what we learned. 5 things that make you forget what you learn. Fascinating machlekes in the poskim. So what's the Gemara telling us? And we'll soon list all those things. The Gemara just can give us good advice. You don't want to forget. Don't eat these things. Or is there an isser involved? Because you're not allowed to forget what you learn. And if you're not allowed to forget what you learn, if you eat these things, which is kosher l'shicha, is you just did an aveda. So some poskim hold these are the raisa. Some hold you do all these other some say. Some hold these are the rabbanon, and some say eitz a teva. Eitz a teva. So chamish roshal limud ha'oichel masha'oichel ach. Well, you ate something that from what a mouse ate. Masha'oichel chosel, or what a cat ate. But oichel lev shel be'ema, if you ate the heart of an animal. Now here's actually big machlek in the poskim. You're not allowed to eat the heart of an animal. So others say it's not limited to an animal. It also includes birds as well. Kiva Egi in the beginning of Shulchan when the Magen Avraham says over there, which is nothing more here, you're not allowed to put 2 clothes on at the same time because kosher l'shicha. So the Kiva Egi, they list a whole bunch of things that you shouldn't kosher l'shicha. And one of them is lev shabheima v'lev shaloif. Then it says another poskim that when it says lev, it's not just lev, it's melech moyach lev kaved. So there are other poskim say you're not allowed to eat liver. You're not allowed to eat liver because moyach lev kaved. And the Kiva Egi says it's a behema and a oif. So you can't forget about behema beef. You can't even have chicken liver, which is a delicacy on Shabbos. Others say you have to eat liver on Shabbos because kaved, the mitzvah of kaved Shabbos, and leber in Hebrew is kaved, which is very similar. So you have to eat liver. Others say the reason why you eat liver on Shabbos, I'll just quick tell you, is because everything on Shabbos is gematria 7 days a week. So we eat first dal gimel is 7. We eat then we eat marok mem reish kuf. You take over the zeros, it's 4 and 2 and 1 is 7. You eat basar beish sin reish is 7. You eat kul kuf gimel lamed is 7. They go through everything you eat, And then you eat if you eat botzel tzibula is beis is 2 and tzaddik is 9 is 11 and lamed is 14. 14. If you cut it in half, it becomes 7. So you eat gahak to lebe and gahak to eye, so the tzibulus that's inside it, the cut tzibulus and everything. I try, yeah, lovely.
The Oliver Cohen used to always say to me, Liebe, you are chocolate.
Oh,
Liebe is covered, everybody wants covered.
oh, look at that. Okay, let's continue. Oh, the word margul is very important. You just said we'll come to it in a minute. It says the Gemara, "V'haragul b'zeisim." See, when it comes to olives, and we'll talk about olives in a minute, it says only haragul. It doesn't say about all the other ones haragul. The other ones, if you ate it once, sounds like if you ate it once, you already forget. But zeisim is only haragul. And there's a big machlek in Achreinim. What's the definition of haragul? How often you have to do haragul? Some say once in 30 days. Some say once in 40 days. Some say only if you did it 3 times. 3 times every 30, 30 days, 3 times 40 days. Some say 2 times, machlek the chazaka 2 or 3 times being the sun. So the same thing over here. So, but it's haragul. Not if you had olives once in a while. You drink the leftover water from what you washed yourself. I'm not exactly sure why you would. But you wash one foot on top of the other foot. Not sure what the Indian that is. But yes, you put all your clothes under your pillow or under your head to use as a pillow. It brings a certain tumor and the terrible things. But there are 5 antidotes. Pas pchamin, bread that you put directly on coal. I'm not exactly sure what you do with the pchamin themselves. The coal. And below melach, you ate there an egg that was roasted and without salt. But is olive oil. And this is the pella. The olives themselves cause shikha, but the olive oil makes it all right. In fact, it says the Mashah says. Yeah, you're right. The other thing I saw was the Mashah as well. The Mashah says that's why it says Ed Chita Sa'ida. It says it labels each thing there. But when it comes to Shemen, it says Shemen Zayis. Because it's not the Zayis. The Zayis is not a Shvach of Yisrael. It makes you forget. It's the Shemen of the Zayis. Which in that Mashah is used, by the way, a big machlekes in the Poskim. It says, I forget who says this already. You're not allowed to eat barley. Sorry? I already have shikha. That barley is kosher l'shikha. Pashal sa'ida is kosher l'shikha, and maybe barley itself. And others say then the whole word of Mashah doesn't make sense because the Mashah says eretz chita sa'ida. These are all things of shvach. It's only by shemen. Zayis, it says shemen. So the sa'ida is a shvach, but it's a good thing. Anyway, ubesamim, smelling samim. The leftover water from when you need it, and the leftover excess water, you drink that water. It's good. It's an antidote.
Why do we make a bracha by him, Sami? If it's a bad thing.
No, these are good things. These are antidotes. No, these are the good things. Meshivin. What exactly Meshivin is? Rashi says that even if you forgot, it'll bring it back to you. The Mashah says doesn't mean it'll restore it. The Mashah says means it'll prevent you from forgetting in the first place. The Shagas Aryeh he wants to become the Rav of Minsk, and the Baal Seder Doidus, Chil Isaac, they both tried for the Rav of Minsk, and Chil Isaac won. And what happened was they asked them both the same question: what would you do, if everyone forgets how to learn? So Shagizai said, with my pulpul, the Tzemach Tzedek said the Shagizai learned Shas 600 times. He said, with my pulpul, I'll restore everybody's memory. And Shagizai says, I'm not such a big gun, but I'm going to make sure that no one ever forgets in the first place. And he won. He got the job. Even though if you read say the Chidah and Shem HaGdolim, what he writes about the Seder HaDoidus, he says he's a gon, never was like him. Because he in his Seder HaDoidus, he goes through Shas, he remembers. People remember Shas, but every name and every gears of every name that, not just what they said, but who said it. And look how many names are on it. Every time there's a few opinions of who said it. Anyway, so he writes, it's amazing. The Chidah wasn't bad himself, but he writes about the. But Yeshem and others say, Af ha'toivel as boy b'melech. If you dip your finger in salt, v'oichel. Here, eating salt brings back your memory. Is if you say somebody used to eating olive oil, olives make you can learn for 70 years, and you eat olives if you forget. But kach shem and zayis meishiv limud shel shim. Olive oil brings it back. Now, so how can we eat olives today? Rabbi Yaakov Emden writes, and this is what everyone relies on. Rabbi Yaakov Emden writes that this that is in Morek Tzia, Sefer HaShalach, this that we say that you're not allowed to eat olives, we're talking about raw olives. But if it's marinated, if it's pickled and marinated, whatever it is, in vinegar, then you're allowed to. It's not that's not what we're talking about. And others say because you have a little bit of oil in our olives, we're not talking about raw olives. Our olives have a little bit of oil on the side, so it's shemen zayis. You're eating the antidote together with the poison, so it's all right. And yeah, if you drink wine and you smell things, it opens up your mind. That's why many years ago, many of the Talmidei Chacham, sure what he writes, he used to smoke. And while they were learning and said that this is what it means, that the smell opens your mind, they would say that smoking opened their mind. But you dip your finger in salt. One finger. What's the meaning? One finger tonight. Imagine, listen, they're having an argument over here in tonight. Achas v'leishtayim, one finger, not two. Too much salt is bad for your high blood pressure. One finger. And Rabbi says shtayim v'shalosh. So two is all right. It's good, but not three. But that's where you get your high blood pressure. Okay, Simanach Kimitza, Simanach Kimitza. The Kimitza finger, how you remember what the machlekes is 1 versus 2? Your Kimitza finger, which is your fourth finger, leaves you one finger on the right side and two fingers on the left side. The thumb doesn't count because it's not in the same level. So you have one on the right, two on the left. To remind you that there's a machlekes 1 or 2. Now, how in the world do you remember to use a Kimitza finger on this machlekes? That they don't tell you. You know, that they don't tell you. It's like the guy who said that he had dementia, so every night before he went to sleep, he'd write on a piece of paper where he put his pants, where he put his shirt, but he could never remember where he put the piece of paper. So he goes golfing. So like all these times, they give you these remasim to remember, but how you can remember the them in the first place? And I think we'll stop here tomorrow. We'll finish in the Masechta. That's all.